Welcome to the NSI podcast. I am your co host, Cassie Dinsmore. Today is our first episode with Paige Francis. Her journey started at Dave and Buster's to higher education, and now the CIO of Art and Wellness Enterprises, which supports nonprofits founded by Alice Walton. She prides herself on keeping a top talent team due to her being hyper transparent. Her drive and passion for her team is evident, and I would say she is a role model for any woman wanting to be in the IT industry.
Something about, let's just say nothing ventured, nothing gained. Because I say that a lot to myself. It's not my favorite, but it's what's popping into my mind. If you don't try the things, you're not going to do the things. There's no way to innovate without doing the things. If you
Right.
don't ever make mistakes,
hmm
you're not ever going to learn, and you're not going to knock anyone's socks off. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
That's good. I wanted to introduce our guest today, Paige Francis. She is a Forbes contributor, author, and chief information officer. Paige, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. So we usually start off with kind of some rapid fire questions, and then we'll go into some more fun, longer questions. But are you ready?
I think so.
We will see, right?
Yeah.
So the first one is, where would you rather live, San Francisco or Aruba?
Oh, Aruba, hands down. I'm a beach person, warm weather.
All right. How about Oklahoma or Connecticut?
Oh, been to both. You know what? I'm going to say Connecticut primarily because we so many great friends there, lots of focus on education, and my kids are at that age where that matters.
Okay, awesome. Here's a better question, one that's more near and dear to my heart. Metallica or Iron Maiden?
Metallica, no hesitation, Metallica.
Hurricanes or Razorbacks?
Oh, well, let me correct you. It's hurricane, singular.
I'm sorry.
And here's how I know that, because I also called them the Hurricanes for my first year at the University of Tulsa, and I was corrected like a year in. So I'm going to say the Razorbacks.
Fair enough. Dave or Buster?
Oh, Buster, hands down, Buster.
Sherlock or Moriarty?
I mean, should I know this? I don't even know who these are.
Sherlock Holmes or
Oh,
Moriarty?
who's Moriarty?
It's his nemesis.
Okay. Well, I'll just say Sherlock Holmes. And shouldn't I know this? I'm an arts and sciences girl. No idea. Sherlock.
No worries, no worries. Okay, so I would have picked Sherlock as well. Um, Nothing like a high functioning sociopath, right?
Well, why not?
There we go. So I want to talk a little bit about your career journey. So can you share your story of your career, what led you to the role of CIO that you have today?
Okay. Well, I mean, it starts back when I was in college. If anyone had told me that I would have anything to do with technology, the world would have laughed. I mean, I had to go to my friend's house to even use her Mac to do term papers and whatnot. So when I graduated college, I moved to Dallas from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and had no idea what I wanted to do. I graduated with a BA in communication, and I ended up getting a position that was virtually unheard of, but I sold myself into the position, and it was as a corporate concierge, and it was just very bizarre, but it's a big thing in cities. Yeah, it's a big thing in cities where they have high rises. And what it is I was the corporate concierge for a large financial firm, and my primary role was making sure that there were amenities and services that were there to show the employees that they valued them. Like I brought in daycare, I brought in dry cleaning, we had people come and wash cars. All of that to say, had no idea what the position was, and it was very much startup feeling. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing, so I just learned. Of course, that company went bankrupt because why would they have a corporate concierge? But then I ended up going over to Dave and Buster's, and I got a position, and this is funny to most, as an executive assistant. I'm terrible at typing. My organizational skills are the absolute worst. And I'm inappropriate in 1,000 different ways. And I was the executive assistant for the vice president of human resources. And as one can imagine, that did not last unbelievably long. But there was the IT department was downstairs. I was upstairs. And their technology leader, first CIO I ever met, was a female, and her name was Barbara Core. And at that time, it never occurred to me that girls weren't supposed to be leaders of technology. Like I didn't know much about technology. At Dave & Buster's, they'd noticed my affinity for languages, and I attribute that from being raised in New Orleans, where I had to learn a couple of languages from early on. And I learned software programs really quickly. So Barbara noticed that, and she recruited me to be downstairs in IT. And I started out as a web developer and graphic designer and all of those things. They sent to get me training. And so that was really my first accidental step into technology. And I loved Dave & Buster's. I loved the culture. Through high school and college, I waited tables and tended bar, and that's just who I was. So I was huge on the hospitality industry, and I was surrounded by people that were just like me. Almost everyone that was an executive with at Dave & Buster's at the time was a former restaurant worker of some kind. It was very much just a culture of absolute service. And in that position, I helped build the first Dave & Buster's website. I helped build the first Dave & Buster's intranet portal. And prior to me being there, the managers in this is a good story. The general managers within each of the Dave & Buster's locations, at the time, I think there was 31 to 34 of them across the US. The general managers took notes down. Imagine, and yes, data warehouses existed at this time, so it's not that long ago, but it was quite a while ago. They had these red books, and they took notes in them every day, noting like the number of people that came in the door, what was the weather like, anything interesting happen, and they referred to these as the red book. So they wanted to automate that process, and they wanted for me to build it into an online application so they could get away from these physical books. Of course, we called the application the Red Book, because why wouldn't we? And we wanted to make it easy. Well, I can remember I was developing this application for general managers of restaurants. And if you try to come up with a group of individuals that 20 years ago were probably not that tech savvy, it was restaurant general managers. And there was this one manager in Honolulu. His name was Charlie Cook. I'll never forget it. And I was trying to train him on how to use this Red Book online. And we were on a call, and he was like, Paige, I just need you to know, I just sell cheeseburgers. I'm just here to sell cheeseburgers. That's all that I know how to do. And I immediately connected that with, if I don't build this so the general managers can use it, what's the point of me building it? And so that really just instilled in me from that point forward that no matter what I was going to do, it was going to be user focused. What is the point of doing anything? If you're building something for someone, if that someone can't use it, it's a complete waste of time, and you're really building it for yourself. I don't need a Red Book. And so I love Dave & Buster's. I ended up getting recruited out of there, went to Thomson Reuters, and did the same kind of work, websites, web work, IT. I was their only IT person in Carrollton, Texas. And then we needed to rapidly move back to Northwest Arkansas because my mom was ill. I had just had a baby, our first baby, in 2007. So we moved to Bentonville, Arkansas, and there were two positions that I applied for. One was Walmart, one was at Walmart, and the other one was at the community college. And I called my aunt and I said, what should I do? Like, I don't know which direction to go here. And at the time, the community college, Northwest Arkansas Community College, was fairly fresh, fairly new. And she was like, gosh, it's just got, everyone really thinks so highly of the community college. So I was like, great. So I took that position. Within a year of being there, the CIO of the department retired, And I became the interim. And I decided to go for it. I was like, well, I'm going to try to be the CIO, because why wouldn't I be? I still hadn't, I've never been a title person. And it never occurred to me that there weren't girls in STEM and technology at that time, certainly not female CIOs. And I had built such a rapport with the faculty and the staff, and I'm just so service focused. I was very different than the previous CIO. And I ended up, it was a national search, and I went through the process. And that is how I landed my first CIO gig without even realizing that it was a big deal. I just knew I could do better than my predecessor. And so from that point forward, I just continued through higher ed as a chief information officer up until my current position, which is at Art and Wellness Enterprises. We are in Bentonville, Arkansas, and it is my pleasure to lead the technology efforts for all of Alice Walton's nonprofits here in Bentonville, Arkansas. And that is what has gotten me from A to B. I still think I'm a little bit of a unicorn, just because I love what I do. I'm hyper transparent and authentic. And in all instances, I am thinking about that user experience above my own, above my staff's. And I surround myself with folks that are 1,000 times smarter than me, and I learn from them every single day. That is how I improve.
Yeah, I think you hit on some really good topics there. One of the last ones, and with me being in a leadership position in my company, surrounding myself with smart people has been how I've been able to get anything done.
Same.
The only way to do it, right?
Yes.
It's kind of the Ronald Reagan approach, but yeah, I really liked what you said there. I liked what you said about in IT, because I see this so many times. Is sometimes IT leaders forget that they're there to serve the end users, right? And that we have a product as the IT team to deliver to our customers, even though we may not look at the other employees as customers, but they really are. So I think that's a great way to put that, and it's obviously it served you well, right? So
well, and I even consider my own staff, the folks that report up through me, that work alongside me every single day. I mean, they're my customer. I mean, if I don't take care of them, then what? When you surround yourself by smart people, you lose those smart people. All of a sudden, people realize I'm not that smart.
Well,
I mean, I lead with that anyway, but
let's hope no one figures that out about us.
Right?
So let me ask you another quick question. So what are some of the perks of being a CIO? And I know you've been at some pretty cool companies. Have you met anyone famous, or is there any kind of cool things that you get being a CIO?
No, there's absolutely nothing cool. I'm not one of those people that, this. When I go to conferences, I pretty much hide. I flip my badge around. I am extremely extroverted at work, but in all honesty, I am one of the most introverted people you could ever meet. And so I don't love those social situations where I would probably meet someone that was notable. I mean, my gosh, I get to hang out with Alice Walton like every other day. And is there anything cooler than that? But the one thing I can remember that really floored me was I was the keynote speaker for a software. And it was I think it was in Vegas or something. And I didn't really pay that much attention to the size of the event.
Right.
And when I walked into the venue, there were like 10,000 people sitting there. And it was all these pink and purple lights and all this stuff. And I think it was the first time in my whole life that I have been literally terrified. 10,000 people. And so, I would guess that, I wasn't really meeting anyone famous that day, but it was the most shocking point of my career. And I learned a little bit about something about me that day, and that I was, that I'm not as brave as I thought I was.
Okay.
I did it, but I was a wreck.
Yeah, I imagine so. So I know that sometimes though, up there where you work, especially I think like Crystal Bridges, I think you've got to meet some famous people, haven't you? Maybe a singer.
I feel like,
Didn't you go?
Jewel. Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
well, yes. I completely forgot because, just
How do you forget
celebrities.
about Jewel? She's the best,
Well,
right?
I don't know because I've slept since then. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, we are building a medical school in Northwest
Mhm.
Arkansas. And, our founder, Alice Walton, is just such a dynamo. For the longest time, her primary focus was on art. But little did everyone know that she had turned to art when she was seriously ill. And now her charge is, now that she's built a world-class museum, let's just change healthcare. Let's fix what's broken. And so we're building a medical school, and then that's going to cross. So it's very, very art and wellness focused. Well, guess who else is very art and wellness focused? That would be Jewel. And she had come into town to speak with, well, she had a presentation at Crystal Bridges, and I mean, there was a hologram, and there was drones. I mean, it was a whole thing. But while she was in town, it was really important to her, Jewel, to meet locals that needed help, that needed attention. And I had already volunteered to go to, it's called I want to say the Havenwood. And it is a home in Northwest Arkansas that is for abused moms and their families. And the only rules to get in there is that, you had to be fleeing something, and paraphrasing the rules,
Sure.
and have young children or a young child. So I went there. Well, I found out on my way there, my boss at the time, who is also the lead of the Alice L. Walton Foundation, he was like, "Oh, Jewel's going to be there." And I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, got to
Just so
meet,
nonchalantly, Jewel.
right? I was all of a sudden like, how can I get out of this? Because then I got nervous and terrified and, all that. Anyway, so I went, and it was like the grace and the realness of Jewel is absolutely shocking. She sang for us in the
Wow.
living room. Her voice sounds even better sitting in a living room than it does recorded. And watching her spend time with each and every one of those moms that were there and their babies and toddlers was absolutely magical. And I think that at that time, not only did I believe she make a donation for those in need in this region, I think that she's continued to. So I sit there and I think about, I always think about Alice. What would it be like to be her? I mean, aside from all of the great things, being of such privilege that, you question who am I surrounding myself with? Are these people really genuinely my friends?
Sure.
It made me realize that, these celebrities, I don't want to say anything so trite as, they're just like us, because they're absolutely not, but they make a choice to be just like us, and they don't have to. And so it's one of those things to where, you think of Waltons, you think Walmart. It's the most philanthropic family I have ever seen in my life. And I would venture to guess that 98% of them dedicate their whole lives to improving others' lives as opposed to their own. And the only reason I say 98 instead of 100% is because I'm sure I'm missing something somewhere.
Sure.
To be able to see these folks and their dedication to things that impact people who need the attention the most when they could be doing absolutely anything better with their time. It's made me grow a little bit to realize, am I doing enough? I want to do more. So
Yeah, it's nice to be around people that help you grow, right? So many times, some of the places I've worked in the past, a lot of it is you're having to take the lead and push and be the new standard for, like, how do we help more than just our organization? How do we look at that. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be able to
Yeah.
be part of those types of organizations. So let's talk a little bit about your leadership. So one of the things that I've always been impressed is when you have gone to new places, how you're able to create a culture of excellence. Can you give maybe some practical or even tactical ways that once you come into a new organization? So if maybe there's a new CIO who's listening to this today, what are some tactical things they can do to help build a culture of excellence?
Well, I think that the first things first. I mean, you've got to listen and you have to learn. I sometimes it feels canned how much I go into each different business, and I'm never leaving here, so I'll never have to do this again. You need to learn your people. That time invested, I don't care if you have 1,000 employees or 10 or 1. You need to sit down and you need to spend time interviewing and speaking with each and every one of them to find out what their experience has been like. Are they doing what they love? Is there something that we could improve upon? What are their thoughts and ideas? And just open up a forever dialogue to where they feel comfortable coming to you and sharing their thoughts. So you learn about the campus or the culture or the business from your employee point of view. And then spending time with each and every leader across the campus, and whether that be a leader of a department or leader of faculty or leader of staff or any of that, spending that time and listening, giving them the floor. You're not there to sell yourself. You already got the job. But the only way that you can really change a culture and fix what's broken is to really know what's broken. And, I start everything with Vegas rules. And I assure that even though I might take notes and I might call out certain issues and ... that I'm never going to connect a name with that situation. I have to learn a campus or a business before I can figure out what I need to do to improve the environment. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, in higher ed, the bar is always pretty low because I'm typically walking into an IT environment to where there's been a leader before me that is the polar opposite of me.
Sure.
And I really lead with that customer experience. If I'm going into higher ed, I'm finding the squeakiest faculty wheel. I am getting myself in front of faculty senate. I'm leaning into the strong personalities and the people that are way credentialed higher than me. I'm leaning into that and welcoming the tomatoes hurled at me and the really difficult conversations. And just the feedback, right? Like, I'm there to do a job. I'm there to make their lives easier. There's nothing they can throw my way that I shouldn't be able to take in, listen, and manage. So that is typically how I start my roadmap every single time that I walk in. You always get that question, what are you going to do in your first 90 days? I'm going to meet with each and every person that's willing to meet with me. And I'm going to learn this environment so that I can then set my strategy on what I need to prioritize first, and then what comes second, and then what comes third. And I over communicate that, much like a old help desk ticketing system. Folks aren't proficient in technology. They're not experts.
Right.
And when they ask for help, it's because they need help, and they recognize that they do not have the skills to get them to the next piece. And like these old help desk ticketing solutions, everyone feels like they're sending in a request into a black hole. They never know where that ticket goes. They never understand where they are in the process. Has it even been completed? Any of that. And so I think that it's critical to make sure that individuals feel heard. So when I start putting together my strategy, I'm going to touch base with each of those people in some way, shape, or form to get them to confirm that what I heard is literally what they said. And as I start going through the strategy, and establishing my plan moving forward, I communicate that plan. And I bake in when I anticipate that they will get their next update on my progress. And if there's been no progress, there's no shame in saying, I've made no progress, right? But I'm still moving forward. Just making them a part of that process. That has been what has been sort of my secret sauce, I guess, is
Right.
making sure that people are locked arms with me and that we are in this together to improve this environment, and that I'm a sure thing, and that I'm not going to give up on this, and that I recognize how long they've been waiting for it. And let's just make it better, easier, simpler, more efficient, all of that. So it's really, for me, it's all about those relationships.
Right. Yeah, I think you locked in on something that we found that's very critical, is especially like you said, open communication. Is like, even if you don't have the answer, or you haven't accomplished whatever you want to accomplish, letting people know that you're still working on it, that they're still heard, that they're still seeing, things like that. Because a good friend of mine, who's the CFO of our firm, he always says, when there's a lack of communication, your mind goes to a dark place. And we've
The worst place.
It goes to the worst place, right? And so that's I would always and I think you're spot on. Having those open lines of communication and communicating, often there. Arvest, JB Hunt, Tyson, Walmart, they're all in your area where you are today. In such a competitive job market, how do you attract and retain top tech talent?
Well, I really pride myself on being able to attract people in. I just have this fairly persuasive nature, but in the businesses that I've worked in, personality is so important. And I can tell pretty quickly in these interview processes, like, who is going to be a great fit. They're not going to look just like me. They're not going to behave just like me. They're going to challenge me. They're going to bring different opinions. They're going to bring other viewpoints into the table. And then I'm going to take care of them. And I have built up a reputation of that being legit. Like, I absolutely walk the talk in that space. It's a matter of, from creating the job description to where it sounds appealing, and there's really that baked in caring, detailing a deep sense of pride in the missions that we work with, and, keeping those talented folks when they do join the team. Yes, I started in Northwest Arkansas at the community college, and we literally shared a sidewalk with Walmart ISD with their technology piece. And I would put out a position, and it would be, let's say, just like a network manager. And, we would pay like, $6 a year. I mean, it was just not high pay. It wasn't $6, but it felt like it. And the minute that we would post that position,
Everybody
and I know
in higher ed's like, she's not wrong.
I mean, I'm really not. It wasn't even 60,000, right? Like, it's
right.
way less than that.
Yeah.
And I would post a position for a network manager, and I'm nothing without these people with this deep technical expertise, because I am not that person. And Walmart would post nearly the same exact position, but 6 of them starting in mid 6 figures. And it's like, well, now what? And I don't settle. So I would just keep looking and looking and looking. If I am taking these positions, there are people out there that are driven by more than just money. Walmart, I might not want to do Saturday morning pep rallies, right? There's just certain things that I may not want to do. And there's an energy that is created from working within a business that has a mission deeper than retail. And you just have to find those people.
Right. Yeah, it's got to be challenging, but you've been successful. So,
Well, I mean, I've lost a few, like the
I think it happens to everyone.
like the partner that was so close to us at the University of Arkansas that stole one of my best and brightest that I have right now that I can't do anything without. I mean, I can't imagine what company that would be.
They're the
Next step.
worst, right?
They are the worst, but I sure did get him back, and I
Yeah.
did whatever it took to get him back. I mean, you
Talent
recognize
sees talent, right? Talent
I
sees talent.
guess, or yes, or desperate need. You recognize who the people that you need to surround yourself with that are
Sure.
the most solid.
Well, speaking of people that we know, I spoke to quite a few people that we'd all kind of worked together with you. And one thing that came up multiple times about, and I don't think people think about this as a CIO, is it's more than just having technical acumen. And you have technical acumen as much as you downplay it. But I would say that this was something that everyone agreed. They're like, she is better at this than any CIO. I think is that you're politically savvy, and it's such a powerful skill set that a lot of CIOs struggle with, and it's something that you have to have when you're trying to get things accomplished, not just for your organization, but when you're trying to get this, and I'm talking about the IT organization, but also for the organization as a whole, right? And so how do you work with other executives? What is some of the things that you could give some words of wisdom when you're working with like the CFO, the COO, the CEO, or, like the marketing directors? How do you work with them to align the IT initiatives with the business objectives?
Well, it just continues to get increasingly easier year after year, right? Like I can remember a time, maybe a decade ago, where I was saying so much of what we do in IT, like y'all can't do your jobs without us,
Right.
But at the time, there were still paper files. There's still, desk phones. There's still all of this kind of stuff. Now more than ever, it doesn't take too much. It's just, if you learn each of those departments from the very beginning, whether it be the finance office or the operations office or facilities or Marcom or whatever, human resources, if you learn those businesses and how they work, throughout, you are going to be able to pick up the ways that IT facilitates every square inch of that. Everyone is absolutely dead in the water unless you have a strong foundational layer of technologies. You have the applications that sit on top of that facilitate an easier workday and lessen the amount of mundane, repetitive desk work. And so what you have to do with each individual department, you have to learn it. You really have to care. You have to recognize that you're not implementing a single technology for yourself. There's nothing that we do in IT besides eat that has anything to do with us, right? Like there's nothing that benefits us. Every single thing that we do is for a different department or a different user. And it's the technology leaders that forget that we are almost never the customer. We are always the provider and the facilitator. And it's just becoming easier and easier as technology is pretty much taking over the world. Even somebody in guest services at Crystal Bridges or the Momentary, years ago, it would have been, well, they're just walking around and they're meeting guests and they're showing this and that. And it's not that anymore. They're walking around with iPads. They're being asked questions. Their increased revenue drive, they have a real vested interest that customer A also knows that there's event 6, 7, and 8 going on over here, so that they will continue to look at that. So it's, and that all relies, that's a ticketing system. That is a calendaring system. That is Wi-Fi. That is all of it. And so it's just making sure that you are aware how everyone runs their business and never losing sight of how you can improve their work, and then they fight that fight for you.
I bet you've never had this happen. You've got that one non-technical stakeholder in leadership who is holding back some project that you're trying to get moving forward. So, and of course, you've probably never had that as a CIO, but how do you justify IT investment sometime to those kind of cantankerous people who are just like, they don't see it, they don't get it? What are maybe some tactical ways you can help young up and coming CIOs understand how to work that?
Invite them to lunch. No one turns down food. Invite them to coffee. Develop that relationship. It is a lot harder for somebody to push back against you when they know you. Right. And when you are in situations that are away from an office table, an actual rapport starts. And then when you get past that awkward, so nice to meet you, faculty senate, president or vice president, whatever, you start to share your experience as you're listening to their experience. And as long as you sprinkle in, you know where you want to get to. So as long as you sprinkle in conversation, so they realize that without you, it's a lot more difficult. But if they were to join forces with you, they could get a lot more done quickly. Everyone wants or needs something that is going to improve their lives. And even if they are absolutely non-technical, there is something that they need or that they want. And in many instances, the pushback comes from a history of being ignored, from a history of being made to feel foolish, of listening to acronyms. You got to speak real talk. In Connecticut, Sue Rakowitz, I just loved her so much. She was the faculty senate chair, and she was a tough cookie. And she and I got to a point to where we went and we had lunch every month. Another good tactic, if there's one particular department that's pushing back, set up biweekly meetings so that you can build this, and you have to meet people where they are. If they're pushing back on something, in the IT world, that's probably fear related or the unknown or both. It's worth the time investment to explain to them what's happening, to give them the feeling that they get to be a part of that decision, even if the decision's already been made. But making sure that they are aware that, yes, technology can be scary. Yes, there's risk involved. I carry that weight. They don't. And so if there are huge implementations that have to happen, huge shifts that have to happen, what I always communicate, and I stand by it, is that when everything goes terribly wrong, all eyes on me. It's my fault. I'm gonna take all that in. But when it's successful, because we'll get to successful, when it's successful, they get the accolades.
Sure.
And it typically makes people feel, and I've had to put that in writing before for people. If this goes terribly wrong, I'm going to be held accountable for this. And typically that helps smooth the path moving forward. It's all about fear, hesitancy. This isn't their area of expertise, and it's a big, bold move. You've just got to assure them that you will be accountable for the failures, and you will make sure that they get to their big win.
Yeah, it's a good point. Even in what I do, and with customers, you're always trying to. You can't be myopic, right, and say this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. But we're always trying to see things from our customer side, and once you can make that connection of, well, what's the win for them? And maybe what you're trying to accomplish at that point, or the solution you have. I worked for some pretty large manufacturing companies before, as you know, and a lot of times you have a widget, right? You have a widget to sell, and you're just like, hey, you got a broken leg. Let's just put this widget in there. the people who are successful understand, well, maybe my widget's not right now, right?
Yeah.
So you have to understand those. But those are some great points, I think, for our listeners to kind of take home, especially those new CIOs or aspiring CIOs to be understanding of.
And it's the little things. I mean, you have to pat yourself on the back every once in a while. Like every once in a while, something will rise to the surface. This morning I walked in, I wish I had brought it with me. The executive director of Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. I had an envelope sitting on top of my laptop. I'd worked remotely yesterday. And so when I came in, there was an envelope and it was from Crystal Bridges. And I'm like, what's this? And I open it up and it's this little pink notebook, with a little elastic thing. And
right.
And it doesn't have anything written on the front, back, nothing. And I'm like, what in the world? So I open it up. Well, there's a handwritten note from Rod Bigelow, executive director of Crystal Bridges. Mm-hmm. And it was just talking about how much he appreciated my leadership, how it's infectious in a good way, and how he just really appreciates everything that I do for him in the museum. And then a really nice quote. Me, I immediately take this book around and I'm like, did everyone get a book? And they didn't. And yeah. And
Paige,
so
are you just showing off right now, Paige?
Well, the answer is yes. I mean, I could not have called him fast enough. And I was like, I don't know whether you sent this or someone in your office sent this. And he was like, I wrote it. Of course I sent it. And I was like, I just need to let you know how much I appreciate that. And that's the whole reason that I'm calling. Just thank you, because it's just made my whole day. And it's just the sweetest thing. I mean, that's where you want to get to with the people that you are there to serve. Under my leadership, we mess up all over the place, right? But there's no shame in that. Like, we can't get to improvement without messing up. And I've messed up a lot in the past 3 years. And to still receive a book like that, showing appreciation, I mean, that just validates that all of those valleys, right, that led to this peak, that all of those valleys were so worth trudging through. And the next time I hit a valley, I'm going to remember that pink book, and I'm going to remember that call with Rod. I mean, it's that valuable. I will look at that and I will cherish that book for, I can't tell you how long, but I'll never mention it again. I'll never mention it again. No one will see it, but I will think about that book, and that will carry me to my next peak.
It's nice. It's a good story for sure. So your CIO, and this is a kind of technology driven podcast. So I can't get out with asking you a couple technology questions, but what emerging technologies do you believe will have the most impact over the next 5 years?
Oh, hands down, it's going to be AI. And I was the person that was at the University of Arkansas when everyone was just raving about blockchain. And I was like, I do not want to hear anything else about blockchain. I really thought AI was going to follow in the same vein. And I am seeing now the power that AI, it is an extension of IT that through secure applications can dramatically improve the day-to-day work life of individuals, at this level, at this level, at this level, by simplifying, by removing the riffraff, by starting. If I've got to draft something, man, it's so much easier to have something this long that you then need to clean up. AI is going to change everything. It's going to improve. It's going to improve in patient-based care in the healthcare industry. In the museum, it's going to make those individuals that aren't necessarily art savvy feel comfortable walking in to something that they might consider as stuffy as an art museum. It's going to make them experience something new and realize, wow, this isn't stuffy after all. It's going to allow them to tell a little bit about itself, so that the agenda for the day can be built around their interests as it pertains to art. It's AI, hands down.
What keeps you up at night when it comes to cybersecurity?
I think it's just the number of times that my credit card has been compromised. I know what that feels like. And it is the worst. The worst part of it, right? Like banks have gotten better about making sure you get your money back, but it's that moment of just flail. You don't know what you're going to do. You get this alert all of a sudden. If I just have one debit card and nothing else, how am I even going to get gas? That moment of absolute stress. I worry about data loss and that happening to others.
Right.
And it being because, someone was able to penetrate, the fortress that we've been built around all the things. And I know it's not if, it's when, so it's going to happen. But that's what I worry about. I worry about the individuals that are going to be impacted by something as a result of someone being able to get into our network and get to our data.
Yeah, we I don't know if you've ever had a identity theft. We did, and I got to tell you, it is a painful process. Oh my gosh! So,
yeah, the number of people I remember buying our first home. I had never pulled a credit report. I didn't know what any of that meant, and I can remember that credit report pulling, and my gosh, it showed I already owned a home, and it showed all this kind of stuff, and I didn't own a home before. It was an identity theft type of situation. And you find out about those things and you're literally helpless. There's nothing that you can really do other than just take a deep breath and figure out how am I gonna get past this?
Yeah, it's difficult. But I'm going to kind of change gears a little bit. Okay. I did want to ask you, so how does one become a Forbes contributor?
Oh Lord, I don't even know. I started writing when I was at the community college. So around 2007, 2008. Again, arts and sciences girl, liberal arts girl, really.
Right.
And technology has never been the primary thing that I'm interested in. It's writing. I love to write. And so at the community college, we had a president at the time that was not a fan of Paige Francis. Can you imagine a world where they're not a fan of me? But they weren't. And I started to realize this is where the politically savvy, I guess, comes in. I started to realize that, man, I'd watched person after person that was strong and apt get walked out. And I was just like, I don't want to be that person. I'm the primary breadwinner in my family. And at the time, I had an infant or a 1-year-old. And so I started realizing that the more public our wins and our accomplishments were, the less chance that if somebody said, man, I'm overpaid, she needs to get out of here, that there was going to be some board member sitting there that was that would read that we had just won an award for this. Sure. Or that I was in the public eye for that. Yes. And I really did it as a reactive self-protection measure. And I started writing then for like eCampus News, University Business, and all that kind of stuff. And I have no idea how the Forbes thing started. I got a LinkedIn message one day from a gentleman in New York City, and he asked if he could have a call with me, and I said no, because you know how I am. And then he was like, well, I'm from Forbes, and I wanted to see if you would write for us. And of course, I love writing. And so that was that. The only thing I really had to agree to was, there were some terms for working for Forbes, but it wasn't anything catastrophic. I say yes. I say yes too much. But yeah, no, I kind of love it. It gives me the opportunity to do many things, share my thoughts on certain technologies. But as you know, it also gives me a platform to be able to emulate how I think all leaders should behave, showing gratitude, showing grace, showing appreciation, empathy, and recognizing that our employees are our most important and valued, object that we have. And I tend to use that platform to drive those types of things, as opposed to, this widget's better than that widget. I don't typically play in that sandbox. But I think that leadership skills and the way you treat people is probably more important than any tactical, technical stuff that we do.
Very cool. Yeah, I'd agree with that, especially at kind of your level and kind of some of the things that I do. It's because I, if I try to get into a closet or start logging into a system, my engineers, they're just like, boss, just let's go ahead and move along.
My team removes my access to everything I worm my way into getting admin rights to. They remove it.
Well, you and I share that same. So I wanted to talk about this book right here. So,
Okay.
Demystifying IT, a pocket guide for the non-technical. What inspired you to, well, first of all, by the way, you can purchase this book to our listeners on Amazon. It'll more than likely, unless it's for Christmas stocking stuff, or get there within 2 days. But what inspired you to write the book?
I recognized it was like a Groundhog Day event. I recognized a lack of understanding / interest in what CIOs are supposed to do. The number of times that I've walked into scenarios where me literally just almost walking in the door solved some problems, made me dig a little bit deeper and realize that there was a general lack of understanding of what a CIO is supposed to do. If you have a chief information officer, if your top person is a director of technology, whatever, there are certain basic things that they are supposed to do for you. And in that, I mean, I wrote that in a weekend. I think I wrote it over like a Mother's Day weekend. I told my husband I didn't want to be bothered with children, and I just wanted to write, and I did. And I just wanted to make sure that, as a CIO for the longest time, who do I report to? Well, some report to a provost, some report to a CFO, some more and more reporting to a president. But typically it's that CFO role, or maybe even a COO at sometimes. They need to understand what our job is supposed to be, because there are so many organizations that invest in a technology lead, and they think because we speak in acronyms and are wizards that we're doing everything that we're supposed to do. It needed to be in layman's terms spelled out. If you're not getting this, then you need better.
Right.
And so I put that together, and the first person that I sent it to was a CFO that I knew that really struggled with understanding, right? And I just needed to get it down to real words, real terms. Here's what we do. Here is our value. Here's why reporting structure matters. Here's why just everything you need to know about the CIO that you want to have.
Yeah, I thought it's a quick read. Again, if you're a CIO, or if you're not just for CIOs, but really for CFOs, COOs, I highly recommend the book. Again, quick read, but it gives you a great overview of things that you should be looking at. I'll tell you one of the things I really liked. Chapter 4, you talk about data-driven decision making. Is there any like kind of practical things you can pull out of that chapter that you might just kind of shoot at the listeners today?
I mean, I don't have the book in front of me. I have no idea what I wrote. But when I think about data-driven decision-making, I wrote this at a time where everyone was very much, we need to be making data-driven decisions. We need to be making data-driven decisions. But it was also at a time where people didn't know what that meant.
Right.
They thought that IT
sometimes
was
still depending on
correct.
where you're at.
They thought that it was IT that is supposed to define what data needs to be compiled for decisions to be made. And it was at a time, I just needed for everyone to understand that, yes, we all want to make data-driven decisions, but you're not going to get that if you don't invest in technology, because that's how you're going to collect the data. Right. And even though I may have just hordes of data piled up behind me, unless you know what you're doing in your department, I can't help you figure out what data needs to be provided to you to help you make the best decisions. Like, you have to know your business and know what outcomes you're looking for us to make any recommendations for what data should be compiled to which you can make decisions from.
Yeah.
It was just this, Paige, we need data-driven decisions, but not understanding what that meant. And if you get all of the data to make a decision, all of that time was wasted if you don't make the decision based on that data.
Right.
So
I think you make a good point in that chapter. You talk about using visual analytics, and it's so powerful when you're able to show something in a picture, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times we'll get these data outputs, right? And like maybe a DBA is like, yeah, I get it. Yep, see what you got right here.
Yep.
But for someone for like me, even as technical as I am in my background, there's many times where I'm just like, I just need to see it, right? And I don't want to scan through, a data sheet of 100 lines of 100,000 numbers or something like that to try to pinpoint something. You made some really good points. I don't want to give too much away in the book, but I highly recommend the book. Again, you can go on Amazon and pick it up. It's a quick read. You get a lot of value out of it.
Let me just, for anyone that is a CIO or wanting to be a CIO, there's one thing, and everyone that works with me laughs about this because I do this everywhere I go. When you finally start to make the investments, when you're awarded money, funds, resources to be able to dramatically improve like a network and infrastructure environment, I always want a picture of a server closet before and after.
Yeah.
And even though no one understands what they're looking at, you just have to put one sentence in to any president anywhere, any executive director, any leader anywhere, any grand population of non-technical people, and just say, if one of these wires turns too much one way, the whole network can come down. This was before. Here we are after. They get it.
Yep.
And that's the aesthetics.
Mm-hmm. So
then they start imagining under the hood, it must be even more compelling. It's the pictures.
I agree with you 100%. And I think you kind of talked about it earlier, but learning how to internally market success to the teams, right? And I think that's a great way, the before and after picture. There's many times that we've ourselves gone through and done these very large projects, and we always sit back like, man, I wish we would have taken some before pictures so we could show the after.
My teams, I drive them crazy. Get a picture, and they don't really understand why I'm doing this until they see it compared to the after picture.
Yeah, it's good advice. So new CIOs out there, take that advice. Trust me. Couple more questions, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. But name one interesting factoid about yourself that none of your coworkers know about.
Well, they know that I insist that I'm introverted, even though they don't believe it. They know that I am a true crime and Real Housewives enthusiast.
Oh.
Most don't know about my Metallica thing.
I didn't mean to pull that one out today.
I've even told the guy that runs the amp, like, if you can get Metallica, they're just my all-time
favorite.
If
you can get them.
I don't know. I'm such an open book, Rich. It's embarrassing. I've told my family's connection to the Waltons, like, over and over and over, just because I get such a kick out of it. I'm an open book. I can't think of a single thing that nobody that I work with knows about me. We've been in some trenches.
Yeah.
And we open ourselves to just about everyone.
I think that's what happens when you get in the trenches.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's anything.
Well, how about this? If you could have or host an intimate dinner
Okay.
and you can have a guest from both the past and the present,
Okay.
who are the 3 people you have at that table with you?
Oh, 3. Okay. Well, I'm going to say past. I'm going to say probably my mom.
Oh, okay.
I lost her far too young.
Mm.
And if I could have her at a table to meet her grandkids, that would be my favorite thing in the whole world. From my present, I posted about it because I was so in a twist about it. I wanted to see Michelle Obama speak at Gartner, and I did not get to because it was so oddly, no, not Gartner, Workday. It was such an oddly not organized event that a whole bunch of people weren't let in, and I was so excited to hear her speak. There would have to be, I don't know. I think it'd be kind of cool. It would be neat to Jim Morrison.
Oh, that's a good one.
I mean, it would just be neat
one.
if he could just be himself in his youth or whatever. Just to see like what was that vibe really like, because I can't envision it. And so it would just be kind of neat.
Good one.
What a weird table. But yeah.
Mom, Jim Morrison, and Michelle Obama.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Poor Michelle.
Yeah, maybe your mom. I don't know. We'll see.
No, my mom. Listen, I dated. Well, most people. Well, no, they know about this. I dated musicians like all through high school and then part of college. My mom was the one that would show up at the shows wearing leather pants. I mean, she was just the cutest. So
nice.
she would love the Jim Morrison thing, and she'd probably love to listen. No, I'm sticking with poor Michelle.
Okay, poor Michelle. You hear that, Michelle?
I know. We're
coming for you. With Paige at some point. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's end this off. If you've got a couple of, how about this? What's your favorite quote that's some good wisdom for some up and coming IT professionals?
I mean, honestly, what is that one? Wait, I'm gonna think. I thought of one, but it's stupid. It's the one about something about, let's just say nothing ventured, nothing gained. Because I say that a lot to myself. It's not my favorite, but it's what's popping into my mind. If you don't try the things, you're not going to do the things. There's no way to innovate without doing the things. Right. If you don't ever make mistakes, you're not ever going to learn, and you're not going to knock anyone's socks off. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
That's good.
Freaking venture. Do the things.
That's awesome. Well, Paige, we appreciate you being on the podcast today. And hopefully we can have you back in the future sometime.
I would love that.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into the NSI podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share. For more information, visit us at nextstepinnovation.com.